Hey guys, our guest today is a humanitarian entrepreneur, a certified health and integrative wellness coach, and is affiliated with the first holistic mental wellness company focusing specifically on the microbiome, gut-brain axis health. Being introduced to the holistic community has allowed him to open his eyes to what is really happening out in the world with regards to organized medicine. Today, he is an advocate for holistic, science-backed, clinically trialed, plant-based, and non-invasive safe protocols for anyone who is in the same mindset as he was sick and tired of being sick and tired, managing his diseases, ultimately reversing his type 2 diabetes, losing 60 pounds, and coming off of 5 medications by focusing on gut health. Welcome to the show, founder of Abundance and Optimum Wellness, Jeffrey Berger.
Thank you, Michael. I'm privileged and humbled to be on your show today.
Man, I'm so excited about this because you know what? I'm going to get a little vulnerable here, folks. I have some gut issues, man. You and I talked about this off camera.
Right.
I found out I'm not alone, okay? There's a lot of people out in the world that have some issues with their gut health, and it doesn't help that a lot of the things we're eating or that are acceptable to eat in America, I'm going to pick on our country over the years, things that have additives and all kinds of preservatives and crazy stuff that I'm going to have you talk about because I'm not the one that knows the science behind it as well as you do. But there's a lot of junk that we're putting into our bodies. And I know from talking to you and multiple other people in this industry, our gut is like our brain is a second brain. Some people consider it our first brain even, like, you know, as far as that, if your gut's off, your whole body is off. So we want to talk about that, and I appreciate you being here. But before we get into science, before we talk gut health and mental health, which are the two big things I'd love to talk about, we want to get to know you. You've had quite the career in this, but also leading up to that, you've had some trials and tribulations, and you've overcome adversity multiple times. We talked about reversing type 2 diabetes. I'd love you to share that story. And then also, you have some other things that were not easy to overcome. Growing up in the 70s, correct?
That is correct.
As a gay male, right? So that was something that, you know, you had to deal with and overcome. And I know you're happily married now, right, to Joshua.
Absolutely.
So we'll have you tell that story. But I'm going to leave it there, and the floor is yours. So how did you get through all that craziness growing up?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Mike. It was a huge roller coaster ride. And basically, you know, it was a period where it was either sink or swim. And, you know, coming out in the 70s and 80s, especially, you know, when the AIDS epidemic came out and was really prominent in 1984. But bottom line is that I am a survivor of childhood molestation, which is outside of my family element, and it's that friend of a family type of thing. So I'm a survivor of that, survivor of rape, chemical dependency, and 2 attempted suicides. So, and that all dealt with a lot of the anxiety, depression, and the stress that I was going through in regards to coming out, being the first of 5 boys in a family and an identical twin. So there were a lot of pressures with that. And after my second attempted suicide, which happened in Boston, Massachusetts, I was living in Boston, was a wake-up call for me because I had come to, after 3 days of being in my apartment, thinking, okay, well, I woke up and I'm like, this is not heaven. This is my apartment. What's going on here? So it was at that point where I said, you know what, maybe there's something here and I'm meant to be here for a reason. And that's when I started my journey. The journey started there, and still through years of dealing with anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem, and different aspects of my life, which many people are going through, which I'm finding out, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But I thought I was the only one. And I just basically, my expression is, and my mother hates this, build a bridge and get over it. And that's what I did. I just toughened up. And, guys aren't supposed to have feelings. We're not supposed to feel. We're not supposed to, boys don't cry. We got all that growing up. And that whole paradigm has shifted today, because men do feel, they do have feelings, they do have emotions, and they do have hormones, and we need to deal with those properly, because that's what, God put us in this body temple, and we need to really treat it like the temple that it is and feed it the right things.
Absolutely. Well said. And again, I don't want to overlook that. I mean, the two attempted suicides and being a survivor of child sex abuse is like, those are really heavy, and I want to make sure I take a moment to say how honored and privileged I am. I've had 50 episodes already at the point of recording this that are out that I'm extremely grateful for. But I can't say that there's another moment that I feel more excited about talking to someone, knowing that you had to overcome those moments, because you are here for a purpose. I want you to remember that. I know you just said it, but it's sometimes easy to say it, and it's different when you actually take a deep breath and you are in that state of gratitude. So I want you to remember that. I'm extremely excited for have you as a friend, have you as a mentor for gut health and mental and holistic health, and also be here for our audience so we can share your story. Because how awesome is it that you get to say, look, this isn't only about me. This is about who I can inspire, encourage, engage with on social media, that I can actually help out, because I know what it feels like to be in that pain, and you want to help other people unravel it and get through it. Because, if one person had to deal with it, that happens to be you want to make sure that you can help other people through it. And absolutely. I think that's what's really amazing. And that's why I wanted you to be sitting across from me on this interview right now.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah. Someone I know, not personally, at least yet, is Lewis House. He's one of my, someone I'm influenced by. He has the School of Greatness podcast.
Right.
Someone I listened to for a few years and inspired me to do my show. He actually talked about hiding a moment where he was molested as a child as well. And he kind of held it in for a long time. And it really was the reason he acted out. He was playing sports. He was over aggressive with people. He just started, one time he was playing basketball and he talks about just beating another guy up for no reason. But it was because he had this thing hurting inside that he felt he was acting out because of it. Can you talk about how your situation, you don't have to give specifics, but how you feel that, like, if someone is dealing with that right now and they feel it's trapped and they don't want to get it out, what can you advise us, or advise, someone who's dealing with this or has a friend or family dealing with this? What would you say? Like,
so that's
getting it out is the question.
That's an excellent question. I know for when I was growing up, I couldn't go to my parents. Who could I go to? Who's going to believe me? I think I was 12 or 13 years old at the time when it first happened. And it continued for about 2 years. But today, there's so much advocacy out there in regards to molestation, human trafficking, and things like that. And there are avenues. There are organizations that you can reach out to. And I would definitely say today, I think parents today are more aware of this. Don't be afraid to go and talk to your parents. If you can't talk to your parents, then find somebody that you can trust, because it needs to be nipped in the bud right away. You don't want to extend it, because it definitely will have an impact on you mentally and as well as physically for a very long period of time if you can't get that resolved. So the biggest thing is, don't be afraid to talk about it. Go speak to somebody right away.
I saw a great, it was on social media, it was a post or a Facebook story or Instagram story where it said, tell your children that no trusted adult will ever tell you need to keep a secret. And I thought that's really powerful, because, a lot of times if these things are happening, of course, they're going to be telling a child, like, this is our secret or whatever, however that they do it. And so, and I have a 5-year-old daughter, so I'm already planning on having the conversation with her about, like, if anything ever happens and someone tells you you have to keep some huge secret, I'm the first person you need to talk to, right? Or mom.
Exactly. And that's their methodology. It's the secret. This is between you and me. Don't go tell your parents. Don't go tell this person or that person. And after researching, after I'd gone through it, that is the biggest mode for them, is building the trust. They're building that trust. And it was a period of time that this evolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said 2 years. So, wow, again, heavy stuff here. And then you mentioned the attempted suicide, where you woke up after a few days, and just had that moment where you said, okay, God put me on this planet. There's a purpose for me here. I'm not seeing it. How did you get from that realization to starting to be like an effective, positive minded person? Because it's not like one day you just snap and you're like, now all of a sudden everything's cool. So how did you transition into being a stronger willed person?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And throughout my years, I was a software engineer for 27 years, and I did the typical go to school, get an education, and go find a nice, safe, secure job. Well, there's really no such thing, but working corporate America. And my take on this is that this system that we're in is we're taught to go to school and go be a robot for corporate America and not think out of the box. You think this way rather than this way. And it was in the early 2000s that I got introduced to personal and professional development. Mm-hmm. And this is when my eyes started to really open so I could think for myself and get exposed to different ways of thinking, different ways of being, and different ways of doing things. And so with that, for many years, I got, was taking courses and attending seminars for my own self-development, but I was still dealing with some anxiety and some depression and some stress. I didn't have the attempted suicide aspect of it, but it was very severe. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I was introduced to the holistic mental wellness platform that I'm currently involved with that really opened my eyes to the understanding of how gut health really is an integral part to your mental well-being. Mm-hmm. And that's when my whole paradigm shift changed for me to doing the deep dives and looking at this science that's really disrupting the health and wellness industry, because Hippocrates was the first known documented all disease starts in the gut, and they're proving it over the last 4 to 5 years in scientific journals and medical publications. The science and the research is now proving this. It is true. So
I have a couple things I want to say, but before I do that, again, guys, thank you for tuning in here. We have Jeffrey Berger. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. That's how we originally connected ourselves. It's spelled Jeffrey, Jeffrey. Berger is Berger. Also, you go to jeffrey.e.berger on Instagram and Facebook. You can check out his content. He's very active on social. I know he works on social media strategy as well. That's another expertise of his. What I'd like to do is transition that quote right there that you just mentioned about all disease starts in the gut, right? And it's been known for a long time. Two things. Number one is, gut is kind of a loose term in a sense. I mean, that can be intestines, it could be the stomach, right? So do you want to be more specific on that? And then second, talk about the situation when you actually were visiting your doctor. You had type 2 diabetes.
Sure.
You're trying to figure out what's going on, how you can get through it. And there was just this moment where you felt like you were basically talking to nobody. They weren't listening or understanding. Please share that.
Absolutely. So first thing is the gut. The gut is basically it's the whole system from the mouth to the anus. Okay, and you're dealing with, it starts here and it ends there. But the concentration portion is after the food goes through your stomach into your small intestines and into your large intestines. That is where the primary immune system is, at the end of the small intestines. And each of these areas have vital processes that are necessary for digesting the foods and then absorbing the appropriate nutrients. So that gives you a high level on the gut aspect of it. So to give you you and the viewers a little foundation, I was actually diagnosed type 2 diabetic in my 40s. I grew up in a family. My father was type 2 diabetic, his sister, and his younger brother. And so over the years, I was basically managing my type 2 diabetes. And it started out with one medication, then went to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. In 2018, I was introduced to the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, and I connected with a health coach. And during that, I did a 4-week series with her on sugar. And I was doing some research on sugar, and I came across reversing type 2 diabetes. And I was floored by this, because I'm like, nobody's ever told me. I've had 4 oncologists and who I've worked with over the years, never telling me that I can reverse my type 2 diabetes. So I did a deep dive, and I was really floored by the information that I read and discovered. So I went into my doctor and I said that I want to get my A1C down to 5.0. So for those that don't know what the A1C is, you go for a blood work. And in there is an indicator, A1C, and that tells you whether you're non-diabetic, pre-diabetic, or diabetic. And I was diabetic. I was in the high 7s, and it was up to the 13s. And being non-diabetic is anything below 5.3. So I said, I want to get it down to 5.0. And her response was, why do you want to do that? And I just looked at her. I said, you've got to be kidding me. And I said, don't even answer that. And I said, as of this moment right now, I am going to take 100% control of my health, and I'm going to reverse my type 2 diabetes, and I'm going to lose 60 pounds. And either you're going to work with me or you're not. It's your choice. So long and the short of it is, from January to August, it was a long, hard road. I lost the 60 pounds, and I reversed my type 2 diabetes. And the catalyst to this whole thing in the beginning, because it was a huge change for me, because, I was athletic. I went to the gym every day. I was a professional dancer in New York back in the day. So I was really fit, but I got caught into corporate America, and you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. By the time, and you have to be into work at 6 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and you're home at 10 o'clock at night. When are you going to work out? So I got into that rut, and so with that, the catalyst that drove me was the fact that my father passed away from type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and a leg amputation. A couple years later, his sister did, and then a couple years later, his brother did. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the next in line if this is a family trait.
Right.
So bottom line is that you can reverse type 2 diabetes, because it's all related to the foods that you're eating. I'm going to say, for the most part, very small percentage. There are some variables depending on the individual.
Goes back to anything in life. We can control what's in our control, and even doing the right things does not mean there's 100% chance that something doesn't happen. Sometimes the most healthy people who work out 8 days a week and eat perfect diets may still have cancer.
Right.
And it really hits you hard when you see that and hear that.
Yep.
But they did the best that they can. Whereas someone who doesn't take care of themselves in many ways gets something going on where the body's acting out of sorts because you're not really taking control of the situation. Well, then, that's very much on you too. So, we can only control what's in our control. And so you started to take control of your life. I love that story, and I appreciate you sharing that you were vocal about it and were confident to say, if you don't understand why that number is important to me based on my health, then what are we talking about here? And of course, I don't want to go into this whole thing, and I'm not here to try to stand on my horse or sit on my horse, whatever the saying is, and shoot down the medical field or the profession. but we certainly know that they have a financial business to run, and you taking medicine for the next 20 years was better for them than you getting that under control. So we get that. We're acknowledging that. And we're saying, if you're listening right now, think about that next time you're at your doctor's office. Right. We're not saying to challenge your doctor just to have fun. We're saying take control of your own situation the best you can with guidance from a professional. We have the World Wide Web that's at our fingertips. That's a great resource, but make sure you double check and do your homework like you did. You went and did your homework. So
can I just add real quick, Mike, to that? What I did find in my research is that about 90% of a physician's income is from the pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And when I got off of my 5 pharmaceuticals, I was asked not to come back.
Unbelievable. So they didn't care about you as a person. They cared about you as a customer.
As a customer. That's correct.
Not a client, a customer, because you're buying products and services. That's horrible.
Right.
Leading right out of or from what you said about gut health again. So what are some things that I personally and anyone listening can go and find at the grocery store, organic foods, fruits, whatever it might be? Maybe I'm a little bit ignorant in that I don't know the quick answer to this yet, but help me out.
Sure. But if I may, I'd like to preface it with this image for people who are listening, is that this is a temple that we've been blessed to be put into. And this temple consists of viruses, microorganisms, and human cells. And each of those 3 entities create their own chemicals to work synergistically together. And when, our organs are unique instruments. And the way I like to say this is that each of these organs play their own unique tune and have their own reason for what they do. But when they play together, it's this beautiful symphony. However, when you start introducing foods that have chemical preservatives and or pharmaceuticals into this system, that's when the dysbiosis starts to happen, the disruption in the gut. It breaks down the integrity of the gut. It breaks down the integrity of the viruses, the microorganisms, and the human cells, because man-made chemicals were not designed to be put into this beautiful temple. And that's kind of where I want to start with this. And in regards to the aspect about foods, I've been doing a lot of research on this. I just actually got off of a food training class today, and most of the foods that are out there basically have a chemical component called glyphosate. And for those that don't know, let me just backtrack. Monsanto is the name of a company that does farming pesticides. They're a chemical pesticide company. They created Roundup, and Roundup kills weeds and kills, pesticides. But then also there's glyphosate, which is a chemical component within Roundup that was actually patented in 1974 as an antibiotic. Since then, they've been injecting it into the genes of corn and soy to ward off insects. So whatever the insects didn't eat, where do you think it went?
Yeah, right.
It went into our own gut. So back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, we're bringing it up to today, which has basically been the massive contributor to a lot of the health problems out there. All right. And what people need to realize, that's number one. Number two is sugar. I indicate refer sugar as the number one. It's the cocaine of the world. It's and all disease feeds off of sugar. And Big Pharma knows this, the government knows this, and food industry knows this. The other thing that I learned too is that these food companies actually go out to chemical companies to find out what chemical preservative that they can use in their product that is addictive. So when I talk about that in my workshops on Saturday, I reference this as, here's the example. Bet you can't eat one.
Yeah. That's what, Pringles?
That's a Lay's potato chips.
Lay's, yeah.
So, when I learned about the different aspects of these chemicals and these preservatives and what they actually do, your gut lining is one cell layer thick. And you look at it as a brick and mortar, like a brick wall. The red bricks are the cells, and the mortar is that connection tissue between. And once that's
Right.
broken, everything starts seeping out. Once that starts to go out, if you don't repair that and heal it, it just goes off to a plethora of all other types of diseases. Because leaky gut, goes to SIBO, to, all kinds of different things. And
Mhm.
that's what the science is proving today. The science is proving that it starts with leaky gut and then it goes off to a plethora of all different diseases within the gut as well as in the mind, because your microbiome, the gut brain axis, which is the vagus nerve, they talk to each other.
Mhm.
Okay. And 70% of your neurotransmitters and your hormones are created in your gut. 70% of your immune system is at the end of your small intestines. This is where everything happens. And they're actually, you said, Mike, earlier about your second brain. They're now considering talking about switching your primary brain to your gut being your primary brain and
Yeah.
this brain being your second brain, because everything starts here, because the communication starts down here and goes up to here.
Right. Yeah, because if your gut is really that out of sorts, you're fatigued, you're mentally fatigued, you're physically fatigued. Everything is just out of sorts, and it really becomes a slippery slope downhill.
Right.
70% of your immune system is at the end of your small intestine. Did you
Small
say?
intestines, yes.
Yeah. So I'm over here taking notes because again, I've had something I have not been able to find out with through doctors and GIs and you name it. I've done uh, looked at what is it called, fatty liver, to see if that's something. And those levels
Mm-hmm.
have been off a little bit for me too. So I think you started to answer it, and I appreciate you going into more of the explanation of it. But now, if someone says, "All right, so I know this, I'm being more mindful of this. We're going to cut sugar out. We're going to cut some of the junk out best we can." What do we eat? I mean, I know the answer is, oh, of course, fruits and vegetables, and let's not be silly about it. But really, if you want to have a well-rounded, healthy gut diet, what does that look like?
So, yeah, great question. So you're basically looking at anything that is non-chemically treated. So, for example, you want to go organic with fruits and vegetables. You want to go farmed or grass-fed beef if you're going to do beef, or if you're going to do chicken. You want to go with wild fish, anything that's caught out in the wild, anything that's farm-fed, or anything that is processed. There's these slaughterhouses that basically produce as much meat. They put steroids in, they put antibiotics into these animals to help them from getting sick. But once they're slaughtered, then the other thing I found out too is their stress levels and their cortisol levels are so high because of the stress that they go under from beatings, these beatings that they get, especially these calves and these
Mhm.
different animals get. Their cortisol levels are so high that goes out into the meat. So you're eating their cortisol levels, their steroids, and their antibiotics, which is not good for us.
Well, it's
And
gotta
you
be.
look at these big fat pieces of chicken, it looks like, wow, that looks really, really good. Well, oh, wait a minute. When you take a processed chicken, a farm chicken versus an organic chicken that's just feeding off of non-GMO grains,
Right.
the meat is relatively small.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and so
Well, you
you
see
want
some of
to
these pieces of fruit that are like the size of a beach ball now, and you're
same
like, "What the hell is that?"
same thing. They're doing genetically modified fruits, and they're
Yeah.
growing them, really astronomically big.
Mhm.
So those are the things that you really have to stay away from in regards to, getting a healthy gut. And, God put plants here for a reason. And the plant-based protocols that I've incorporated into my life, every plant has unique attributes that feed our human cells, that feed our microorganisms, and feed our viruses.
Mhm.
And these plants, they're science-backed, clinical trial plant-based, and they're vegan friendly as well for those non-meat eaters. And then also I want to throw in there, we've got an award-winning product line as well. So, and these are the essences of these nutrients that are, these entities in our bodies feed off of. Okay. And we're having tremendous success in regards to helping people really mend their gut and their gut health, as well as mending any mental annuities that they're living with. We're getting people off of their medications, their antidepressants, I'm doing an interview tomorrow night with Dr. Georgia Balsley. Antidepressants last year was a $14.3 billion industry. Today, it's already up to $28 billion.
$28 billion for antidepressant medicine. Yep.
Right.
Yeah, I had a doctor who had me on stuff because I was, working in sales about a handful of years ago. Was married, and my ex-wife was kind of saying, hey, you should take some medicine for your stress and your anxiety for your job and this and that. I started to take stuff, and I didn't really notice a huge difference, but at the same time it was like I'd rather do the holistic,
Right.
figure out a way that I can get my whatever this drug is supposed to produce in my, you talked about temple, in my body, whatever this thing is supposed to produce, there's a natural way to get there. Exactly. Tell me how to do the natural thing. Is that getting up a half hour early and going for a bike ride? What the heck is it? Whatever it is to get my body to produce the thing that this pill is going to do, let's figure that thing out. And thank you so much for sharing that. Also, I recently become a vegetarian. I was a vegan for a while too. It's extremely difficult. That's not a good reason to not. I commend anyone who's a vegan and really is that strongly supportive of animals and animal rights. When you're describing what's going on with meat and in the process and what they're giving and everything else, I've read books on that too, and I'm well versed in how that industry is disgusting as well. And again, nobody likes to be told who's sitting there around the dinner table. In my family, I'm old school Italian. They're always, if the course doesn't have meat in it, it's not considered real food. Like if we order pizza, my dad says, this is lunch. This is a snack. We got to have like steak or lamb chops or something. There's got to be burgers or whatever. Otherwise, it's not like an official meal. And, my dad actually had colon cancer too, which is crazy. And red meat is a big driver in colon cancer. So I intentionally cut red meat out for that purpose because I know it's hereditary. And again, do what I can do, take control of the situation the best I can. But also just the animal rights side of it. I'm really connected to that as much as I can be, and
awesome.
Do what I can. So, I appreciate you sharing this. There's one thing we talked about a few times that we didn't really go all the way into yet, and we're kind of running a little bit low on time. Talk about the mental health side of this. So it goes both ways. Like your gut can help you have more clarity in your mind.
Right.
Does it go the other way too? Is a two-way street? Like if you're really doing great things in your mind, does it help like if you lower stresses by maybe meditation or doing things that allow you to ease some of your anxiety, does that allow the rest of your body to be at ease?
Yeah, absolutely. So our platform is, it's not only the gut, because that's only part of the formula. There's a huge formula here. We talk about, and today we have to do supplementation because our lands are depleted from the nutrients that are so critical to us living. And so we have to do supplementation to get those essential nutrients, because most supplementation is it's organic. Okay. But we talk about supplementation, we talk about exercise. All right. We talk about nutrition, and then we talk about stress management. Those are the different modalities that are really essential to holistic well-being, physically and mentally. And there's a lot of different stress management because we're all under stress today. And in fact, the World Health Organization has indicated that stress is the number one factor in everybody's life, on top of financial stress.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, any ways to reduce your stress, whether it's meditation or yoga or prayer or going out for a walk or, going for a massage or getting acupuncture, things like that. What is going to reduce those levels? And those are things that you can do. There are plants out there. There are protocols. We've, through the science of the Microbiome Project, which actually started in 2006, over the last 4 to 5 years, they've come out with their scientific studies and their clinical studies. They've isolated 3 probiotics, and 2 of them are, and they're strains, they're specific strains, 2 strains of lactobacillus and 1 bifidobacterium that actually address gut repair as well as anxiety levels, cortisol levels, and depression. And these specific strains work in the gut and then communicate to the brain through the vagus nerve, because I say that everybody's vagus nerve today who's not holistically healthy, that it's for those who are in Buffalo, it's Route 90 in a traffic jam.
Traffic jam. I was thinking it before you said it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of the vagus nerve, but I don't know. Like you used it a few times and just, you explain things extremely well and you make it make sense for someone like me who's kind of the, just looking for like the layman term version of it where you can explain it and it makes sense.
Absolutely.
It's also like at a high level too. It's not just too elementary. It's and that's a great salesperson does that. They're a great storyteller. They're great at making difficult or intricate information understandable and applicable. And so I just want to commend you on a great presentation here today. And
thank you.
10 minutes left, let's dive a little bit more into yourself too. So
okay,
you balance multiple organizations. You have, your products that you sell. You have yourself as a consultant. You do some social media work as well. You're all over the place. You do a lot of video conferences. You do your Saturday workshops, and you have a family. How do you balance all that?
So great question. So, I basically balance it to the best of my ability on a daily basis. Work that there, I'm passionate about a mission. I'm on a mission, and my husband is 100% supportive in that mission, because there are so many people out there who are sick and tired of being sick and tired of not getting better in whatever it is that they're doing physically or mentally. So, right now, my mission is to get out there and educate people, because this stuff is not in mainstream, and we're being stripped from mainstream from sharing a lot of this information because for whatever reason it is, many of us are being stripped from that. So we have to do it to the best of our ability. And my husband is a photographer. He was always passionate about that. He's doing that. And we get out to do photo shoots. We have a dog and 2 cats. Zoe is our dog. And then we have 2 cats, Zorro and Zelda.
I love
so
it.
We've got the 3 Z's there. Yeah. And we take Zoe with us. They're all here with us in Buffalo right now. And, we spend time where we can. We go out. We're in Florida. We love the water. We love the warm air. We get out for bike rides. We get out for walks. And we get out to different areas of sanctuaries and walking in the forests down there as much as possible, and go to the beach. That's how we kind of find relaxing times. And then other than that, it's really focused on, I'm committed to this mission of being part of this humanitarian entrepreneurial tribe that I'm associated with. I'm really blessed to be with, to lead the global mental wellness revolution with our platform of products and programs, as well as people.
And I know you do a lot of your own research, which is how you learned about just about everything we talked about was through your personal research. Right. Who's your biggest influence, would you say? It could be anybody. It could be a family member, or it could be someone that maybe you haven't had the privilege of meeting. And what kind of books and podcasts do you personally listen to? And based on the topics we talked about today, what would you share with us? So if we can dive into more of this content, where would you send us?
Okay, so well, those are a couple questions. I'm trying to sift through these. So as
Where's
far
your
as
biggest influence?
my biggest influence is really being introduced to the holistic platform and opening up my doors to other possibilities, because there are other possibilities out there that do work. And, unfortunately, most of us aren't aware of this and we're kept away from it. And, so this is something that I was really passionate about. And then I'm really very passionate about our CEO and founder of this holistic mental wellness company and his mission. It really resonates with me from a personal perspective, as well as from what I've gone through and what I've suffered and how I want to help other people, because I do have family members who are dealing with drug addiction and bipolar and being on their 15th antidepressant medication and just going through all that. So I'm here to provide value. I'm here to provide education, direction, and hope.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, hope, because people are looking for hope, and there is hope. It's just a matter of finding it. And that's what I'm here to do, is to share that. Some of my, right now I'm going through NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming with Jim Fortin. I'm very familiar with Lewis Howell because I was introduced to him through Brendan Bouchard, because they did an interview together. I've gone to Tony Robbins for motivational and business mastery, some of his courses. I listened to Brooke Thomas, who has a podcast, Live Out Loud. It's time to live out loud. We need to voice our opinions. We need to share this. And then through my social media attraction, I actually help health enthusiasts. I coach health enthusiasts to really build another stream of income through social media strategies. And I'm a social swagger coach, if you will. I learned these strategies on social media to getting out there, branding myself, and then being able to launch, grow, and scale my business. And I want to help others to do that, because COVID-19 has really put a brick wall up for many health enthusiasts out there. This is just another vehicle for them, because many people in the health industry, they have multiple tools in their toolbox. It's not one thing is going to do everything.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what tool do I need today? And this is just another tool. Yeah, absolutely.
Just like how the mind connects to the gut, and the gut is a part of what you're feeding it, and if you're getting sleep. We didn't talk about sleep. So really it's, I sold sleep for a while. And what I mean by that is I worked for Sleep Number, great organization, great product, great service. And I used to do a presentation all the time that talked about the importance of quality sleep.
Yeah.
And, I don't care who you are, everybody needs quality sleep, because it's not so much, you love, feeling comfortable in bed, and that's great. And the way you feel in bed is important. And the way you feel when you wake up is especially important. But it's not even all of that. Those are great. But it's, how do you feel at 2:30 when you're on that conference call, when you got, like right now we're recording this 2 p.m. Everyone says there's a 2 p.m. crash. How do you feel when you're after quality sleep consistently? Right. And it's diet, exercise, and sleep. It's the three-way pie.
Right. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
and so, and look, guys, I'm not sitting here, I'm not coaching you on that, because I need to improve all three of those personally. And I'm just being mindful of saying, I'm bringing Jeff on the show right now so he can, through his stories, through his experience, and now he's out here as a humanitarian entrepreneur helping serve the world. And that's such an incredible thing. I want to say, you talked about what you want to be doing, and I want you to know you're already doing it.
Thank you.
You're already making an impact. If you can be known for one thing, what would that be, and why?
Wow, great question, because what really prompted me to getting out of corporate America, for like the last 10 years of corporate America, because I left in 2016, I always wanted to leave this world having made a difference. And I didn't want to be a monkey keyboard banger. not to slang or slam, slam the software engineers out there, but me personally, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And it wasn't cutting it in corporate America. So I wanted to be able to leave this world having made an impact and doing what I'm doing today, and helping the people that I'm helping. As I mentioned last night, I've already started helping hundreds of people. I want to help thousands of people. And by the time I leave this world, I will be helping millions of people. And that is going to be my legacy. And that is going to be my dream, to being able to leave this world having made an impact.
I love it. Like I said, you're already doing it, helping hundreds. You're not far off from thousands. And I believe if you continue to do what you do, and again, having you on the show here, I hope I'm doing my part in getting more eyeballs and ears on you and your message and how you can help people out. And, my mission for the show, as you probably heard me talk about it, is inspiring people to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, right? Those key words,
exactly.
Brave and bold. And you are brave and bold in what you're doing. If you can use that and deliver a message to our audience to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would you tell them?
I would say start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, getting out of your comfort zone, because that is where people will really blossom. That is where you're going to learn. And you as an individual and a human being, we all have been put here for a purpose, and many have not found their purpose. And what I'm discovering is people find their purpose once they get out of their comfort zone, because we've been put into this box. You can only think this way. Mm-hmm. You need to open up that box and get out there and explore. And that's what's happened to me, because I've held myself back with that kind of stinking thinking for many, many years.
Yeah.
No more stinking thinking. I'm on a mission and nobody's going to stop me.
Absolutely awesome. Well said. Mic drop moment right there. Bam, right?
Boom.
Get the pyrotechnics out. Dude, that is exactly what I'm talking about right there. I personally feel everybody does have a purpose, right? And even if you're having a bad day, I had this awesome conversation yesterday with a woman who said, it's amazing how we're in control
Mm-hmm.
of how we react to anything that happens.
Yes.
Mentally, we have a split second that we can choose how we're going to move forward in that situation. So if someone says something and it bothers you, we all know that could really derail your day. It can make your week. You can keep coming back to it. I know someone said something to me 2 weeks ago, and it keeps filtering into my brain for some
Mm-hmm.
reason. I'm having a hard time kicking what they said. But what she said was, or she actually made a statement that made me think that we literally have control of every second, where we can stop it right there and just acknowledge it and go forward. And I think what you're talking about is like making an impact, not having your life, the changes that you've made only impact one person. It's about who you can come in contact with and right. Really inspire. And I think everybody has that ability. So just get real with yourself. If you're having a moment where you feel like you're getting derailed, we have the choice of how in that split second do we want to go in a different direction. We don't have to stay in the way we feel currently. We do have control of that, which is fantastic. Right. And a big way to really settle your brain down is to get quiet and think in a state of gratitude.
Yep, absolutely.
Be great and be grateful. So what are 3 things you're most grateful for?
The first thing I want to say that I'm grateful for is my husband. He's been my rock and supports me.
Joshua, right?
Joshua, yes, absolutely. That's number 1. Number 2 is the support of my family and having my health. And then lastly is the team of entrepreneurs that I'm really working very closely with to serve purpose and become a servant leader. And that is the ultimate vision, is becoming a servant leader, because it's about serving and providing value to people. And that's what I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, we're serving every day, man. Whatever our superpowers are, some people are more technical, some people are more big picture thinkers, and some are action takers, and there's just like everybody has their own. Again, not to keep going down that road, but it's so important. I want to make sure everyone that's listening to this right now, whatever it is, if you're not where you want to be, you do have a lot more control over that than you think you do. Check out the law of attraction. Check out things that Jeff talked about in the podcast he's listening to. And that as we record this in a state of a pandemic still, even though I don't know where we are in the tail end of this thing or not. We're in October of 2020 as I'm recording this. And it's been an absolute wild year. A lot of people losing their jobs, businesses closing. It's horrible. And some of that stuff is out of your control, but we all can control what's in between our ears and the attitude that we have towards it. And I just want to encourage everybody to look at someone like Jeff here. He's a survivor of child sex abuse, 2-time suicide survivor, and just it took some adversity for him to finally kick all of that and realize he was going to take control of his life and not just be a victim of circumstances. And I'm super proud to say that he is where he is today. And now he's this incredible person that's really inspiring people. So again, this is a complete honor. You guys can check him out again at on LinkedIn. Connect with him right there. JEFFREY. Berger is BERGER. And he's also at Jeffrey.E.Berger on Instagram and Facebook. Jeffrey Berger, thank you so much for being here today, brother.
Thank you, Michael. I'm humbled, and it was a great hour. I'm really blessed. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
We blink, and here we are.
Absolutely.
Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKEDuppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.